But welcome everybody to our Touch Base Tuesday session. We've got the marketing team from Cabinets by Computer here this afternoon, going to share a lot of wisdom on the value of being agile. So I had a little sneak peek at this presentation this morning, and I think we have lots to learn. I'm going to keep letting everyone in. Oh, a couple of housekeeping items as always. If you can pop your questions into the chat box, that would be great. We will do a Q&A session at the end, but if you've got something that comes to mind, throw it into the chat box so we can keep it there, and I'll come back to you when it's appropriate at the end of the session. This will be recorded, so members will be able to access this session in the members portal in about a week or so. Vincent, I'm going to hand over to you to introduce yourself and your team, and I will keep letting people in as they come through.
Thank you, Selena. Hello, everyone. I've got Justin, Brody and Riley here. Today we're going to be talking about the value of being agile in 2021. So obviously, thank you to everyone that's joined us today. My name is Vincent, obviously, and I'm the marketing manager here at CBC. How many of you actually know Cabinets by Computer is or what we do?
Raise the hand function if you can.
Royce, it's only one. There's only one, Royce. You know what's happening here, eh? Anyways, on a serious note, Cabinets by Computer is an Australian-owned and operated business. We've been trading for the past 19 years, and the main premise around that is software. So we provide software solutions for designers, cabinet makers, builders, and trade professionals. And the ultimate goal here is just to make life easy for everyone. Just a little bit of information about myself. So I've been involved in marketing for the last 10 years, and I've seen quite a lot of campaigns and been involved with campaigns that have really worked well, some that have failed, and some that sort of, went on to sort of do extremely well and beat that ROI. So today, what I'm really going to be talking to you all about is why it's really important to run smaller, more measured campaigns, campaign strategies, that is, instead of running those traditional overarching campaigns where you don't have that flexibility or that agility to make change. So we're going to jump right in and just get a better understanding. What does agile really mean? We throw that word around, but what's the premise behind it? What does it really mean to a lot of people? So from a CBC point of view, we look at it as being customer focused and not marketer focused. So you're probably looking and thinking, okay, well, what does that mean and why have I said that? Well, when we look at it from a customer viewpoint, we're looking at what they want. What are we doing for them? What value add are we going to provide that customer? From a marketer's point of view, it's all about the glitz and glamour. We're looking at that lovely bit of copy, that ad that we're doing, all the fun stuff, but all the really important things people forget, and they forget that what we're really wanting to achieve is to meet that customer, is to solve that customer's problem. Leading on to the next one there, which is, what enables us to be agile is the digital landscape, which is item number 2. And sort of we're in a really unique position now, which has been fast-tracked due to COVID. And we're able to make more changes quickly and effectively than we did, say, 10 years ago when, the big ticket items were done all on print. Whereas you'd put something on paper, you wouldn't be able to make a change after that. And then leading into the next step, which is ability to make changes quickly. Being agile, it's all about adjusting your cogs to meet that customer demand, whether it's using measuring abilities or whatnot. I'm going to keep on this page for a brief minute as well, guys. What I want to sort of really drive home here is that your campaigns need to be constantly changing and evolving. Especially in 2021, we can't just sit there and let our campaigns do nothing, or just sit and forget. There is no set and forget rule here. We need to be constantly evolving, absorbing data at an extremely fast rate. Now, I'm going to jump straight in and we're going to go through the next slide. Now, you can see there's 4 key areas there that are going to really help you make changes when we talk about an agile campaign strategy. And this is sort of where we really touch on when things don't go well, when things don't go to plan. You've spent a lot of time organizing your campaigns, but what can eventually happen sometimes is, customers change their habits. And so you need to adjust accordingly. So if you're not willing to listen to what your customer has to say, your campaign's not going to work. They're already telling you if they're not engaging with your ad copy or with your social media or with your email marketing campaign, they are actively telling you that something's not working. So how do we go about and adjust this? Well, I've outlined 4 key points here. The first one is build the plan. Will they come? Well, if you're Mercedes-Benz, then yeah, maybe they will come. But for us mere mortals, we need to put some hard yards in to get them to come. So one of the things that we look at is a holistic approach from the CB. So from Cabinets by Computer, what that means is that we get everyone involved from the ground level. So we get our sales team involved. We get our tech support involved. We get our development team involved. So why do we do that? Because they're all key touch points. They're the first port of call that a customer will engage with in your business. So they are going to then enable us to make better decisions using the data that they're going to provide us, because it's always good to have one bit of data where it's all on paper. We're able to sort of measure that information, where traffic is coming from, but we don't have that first-hand account. So by having this first-hand account, we're able to make informed decisions moving forward. So this then moves on to the next step, which is providing that curiosity culture. So by allowing people to be more involved in the decision-making process, you're giving them that ability to be more curious. When they're more curious, they're going to ask more questions. By them asking more questions to your target demographic, that's going to then provide you with better data to make those informed decisions moving forward. So the next step here is measuring. If we're not measuring what we're doing, there's no point in running a strategic campaign in general. That is one of the main focus points when we run a campaign here. If it's not measurable, if we can't check the data, we don't do it. So there's 2 bits of software that I really love to use. The first one I'm sure some of you would be familiar with, which is called Google Analytics. It's a great bit of software. When you're running your ad campaigns or your social media campaigns, you're able to then track where your customers are coming from, whether it's how many clicks they're coming from your ads, whether, what devices they're using, what keywords. So then those keywords you can use for other campaigns, later in the track that are going to trigger those conversions or that engagement on another level. The devices are really good too. But what I really want to talk about today, guys, is another bit of software that I really love. It's called Hotjar, and it's definitely not something that you spread on your toast. So what it is, it's a heat map software, and it tracks where people land on your page. So what's really important there is that when we talk about measuring, we don't really measure where people click on our page and what they're actually looking at. So this tracks behavior. And what it also does, you're probably thinking, okay, but how can I really use Hotjar? Well, what it does, it provides you some really good insights so that, if you're running or going to run a campaign, you've probably got galleries on your website of some really amazing kitchens or bathroom designs you've done. You can take that bit of data and then you can sort of say, okay, well, I know that this image is going to work really well because, we're finding it's like getting a high level of engagement. So that's what you would use that for. So then we're going to move back now and we're going to talk about learning. So what does this mean? So you take your measurings and then you put it into learnings. So that means, so you update your copy, update your call to action, you update, your web page too, sort of, so they're providing relevance. So taking those measuring tools and then implementing them into learnings, which is really important. The next step here, guys, is that we're going to relaunch it back into the market again. So re-energizing that campaign by making those changes, which is extremely important. Your target demographic, your clients will automatically pick up on that and they'll be willing to make that change because you're making changes, you're meeting them halfway. I'm going to take some water, guys. Just give me a second. So the next stage here, guys, is you're probably thinking, this is great, but how can I use that from a design point of view? What can I take from this and how am I going to implement an agile strategy? Well, the next slide, we're going to run through exactly how you would implement what I've discussed in a step-by-step process. You can see there we've got two flow charts there. One's a traditional process. I'm going to really fly through that, guys, because I'm going to run out of time here. It's very rigid, as you can see. It doesn't allow that flexibility to make those constant changes. So if we can sort of zoom past that, because that's irrelevant now, guys. We're looking now at a more agile strategy, which is going to allow us to make changes quickly and be more nimble. So my name is Vincent, and I'm a kitchen designer for KBDi, for example, today. So I've created this amazing design brief from start to finish. This client's been extremely difficult, and I've been able to come through with it. My design brief from start to finish has been, perfect. Let's just say that. The variations haven't been any variations in terms of cost. The client has kept the cost. He's happy to pay the money. So in the end, I'm really happy with that. And I'm thinking to myself now, I want to leverage this job and get more jobs or grow my database. Now I want to provide some exposure. So how do I do this? So what I look at is my goal. So the goal is to obviously create a database. So that's to sort of expand. The next step is we're going to create a call to action. So on this instance, we're going to say, find out how to overcome that difficult client in 5 simple steps. Right, so that's going to draw people in. The next step here is we're going to say to ourselves, what platform are we going to use? So I would say email marketing, but I'm not going to steal my colleague Riley's thunder. He'll be talking about that later on. So we're going to be talking about social media, because I'm pretty confident the majority here would know about social media and would probably use the platform on a day-to-day basis. The next step is we're going to discuss the voice. So when I say voice, it's about how I'm going to convey this message. Am I going to be an expert, or am I going to be from an educational point of view? From our point of view here, Accountants by Computer, we find that being educational, you're going to get a high level of engagement with your client base, because people are always looking at better ways to do things and how to value add. So then we're going to move on to the next step here, which is the iteration cycle. And we talk here about now, so once we launched and we measure, so that's combining the two in together. And what that does, that takes the software packages I've discussed before into play. So I'm using those 2 bits of software to measure the relevance, to measure clicks from the ad website, and just to measure pretty much everything that's happening with that campaign. Now, once I've done that, we move into the insights, this is probably the most important part of your campaign, because you're taking your insights and then you're going to be delivering them through you take them through the last step, and then you bring them into insights. Apologies there, guys. And so what I've learned so far is I've launched my campaign, but these are the issues. No one subscribed to my list yet. My bounce rate or my exit rate from the campaign to website is very high. So there's no relevance there. But the advert is getting a great amount of clicks and engagement. So that's fantastic. So we know already that the ad's working A1. So then what I go back and I sort of do a bit of digging, and I find that the actual ad on social media is just clicking back to the website, which obviously there's no real relevance there from a customer point of view. Their expectations aren't being met. So then what I go do is then I create a whole new page that has relevance to those 5 points. And I write sort of those 5 points on that piece of paper, and then I put a call to action at the bottom. For example, for instance, we could say, please sign up for more tips on how to overcome difficult clients. The reason why I put at the bottom is because I'm wanting to engage with people that are willing to spend the time. So time is very important. So if someone's willing to read through my 5 tips to the bottom, then that means that they're going to be invested in what I have to say. So this just is for this instance. There's multiple different ways to go about it. And my sort of this way can work, but through the strategy, there's multiple ways to go about it. In the end, what's important is that we're constantly measuring our campaigns and adapting to change. Ultimately, in the end of the day, we need to make constant change to meet the market. If we're not prepared to make that change, then ultimately we're going to fail, because they're going to go, customers will go somewhere else, or your clients will find another solution. If you're not willing to meet that customer, then ultimately you will lose. So in closing, I really appreciate your time. Hopefully I haven't bored you too much, but I will now pass you on to my colleague, Justin.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Vince. Great insight into marketing there. probably more than what we all need to know, but Vince could talk about it forever, and he's bloody good at it. So no, thank you very much, Vince. We appreciate it. So I today am going to have a chat with you guys about agility and how you should go about adapting your business to help with increasing productivity. And today I'm going to mainly talk around the communication side of things. I'm also going to talk a little bit about some tools that can, help with overheads and that sort of stuff. I chat with you guys from my experience in role at Cabinets by Computer as business development manager, sales manager, and general manager capacity. I've worn a few hats over the years. So I want to start out by talking about 2020. If that taught us anything, I think that it's stability and status quo. We can't take it for granted. It might have been around for a while, but there's always going to be these external forces that are going to jump up and change circumstances on it. And the outcome of that is we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to change. So we're going to jump in now, and I want to talk more around the management side of things, as I said, and being able to adapt and how that can bring in some employee level benefits, but also business level benefits as well. Now, I think probably what's important to take into consideration or keep in mind as I'm chatting through is that, you might look and say, hey, you guys are in software, that's pretty different to us, or you might be not in a position of management or that in your business. That's fine. A lot of this stuff through here is relatable across a lot of different levels of industry, and also, it might not be directly with, it could be how you deal with your customers, how you deal with your colleagues, and a whole other little tips in here that hopefully should help with remote communication and that sort of stuff. So for us, prior to COVID, I'll just go back a slide, sorry. Prior to COVID, we were predominantly in office. We have an open planned office, and we're really, really big on team collaboration. Luckily, we had already started exploring some different approaches for cross-company communication and how best to do that on a digital level. So, outside of grabbing each other and having a chat, being able to take that so that when we weren't all in the same place, how can we keep that level of collaboration running through? We'd considered the work from home approach as a part-time for some of our employees, but haven't really pursued that on a company-wide level, mainly due to we didn't know how best to handle it, how best to measure it, and we didn't have enough mechanisms in place to handle it. So for those who don't know, our headquarters are in Geelong, which means that our Melbourne-based employees, usually they're 1 or so hours each way in the car. So cutting out 2 hours a day for them is obviously a pretty big benefit. So fast forward a little bit into 2020 and COVID's hit us, and all of a sudden our work from home program went from nil to into full force in about a week. So during that time, that ability to really be agile and adapt to different needs for communication and different changing communication was super, super important. It's just so that our team collaboration didn't come to a grinding halt. One of the things I stressed to my team during this time is I said to the guys, hey, now more than ever, we need to over communicate rather than under communicate. And I think that's so important, and making sure that we kept our collaboration and communication running through. So I want to run through and talk to you about some ways that we sort of found work well for managing a team remotely. Now, I would have loved to have heard about these prior to COVID, but obviously we sort of had to roll with the punches there. So I've got a few things that I want to run through with you guys that it could be helpful if we ever get ourselves into another mess like this, or it could just be for how better to improve your communications with clients, colleagues, if they're remote, or if you're working with someone in a remote scenario. So five of the tools that we use. The first one, online chat and direct messaging. Now it's nothing new. It's been around for ages. We use a program called Slack. You might have heard of that before. You might have heard of ones like Microsoft Teams. They're all fairly similar. In a nutshell, they allow you to direct message each other. So you can send a message to your colleague, your workmate, but it also gives you the ability to set up, and this is, I'll talk a little bit more about Slack in general because that's what we use. So having shared team channels, which really open up that ability for communication and collaboration on things like sales, marketing, development, tech support, and more. Our Slack usage absolutely skyrocketed over COVID, and it was such an awesome tool. Sometimes, you might have something on mind that's not important enough to pick up the phone or to send it via email. Having a little instant message platform that you can send it through is awesome for that kind of thing. So next, again, nothing really new in this regard. Online meetings, we're doing it now, Zoom. I think probably 18 months ago, we probably used it very rarely. We actually used it for a whole range of different things. So it wasn't just for team meetings or meetings with clients. We also used it for things like screen sharing, troubleshooting. During COVID, we added 4 new staff members to our team. Our team grew. We had a lot of growth over the last 12 months, and we added 4 new people. They all started remotely. We trained them remotely. We used Google Meet. We used Zoom to do that. So it's also about looking at the tools that you've got there and how can you make the most out of them. So moving on from that, the next point I'm going to chat a little bit about is called daily huddles. Now, excuse me, I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the idea behind a daily huddle. I'll talk to you a little bit about that now. So in a nutshell, a daily huddle is basically about getting all your team together, stand up, you get away from your desks, you all join around in a bit of a circle or whatever, sit around a table, and you basically have a quick chat about the day previous. And what you're going to talk about is you're each going to have the opportunity to have a talk about your high points, so things that went really well, some successes that you had, happy clients. You then have a quick talk about any challenges you faced or low points for the day. And then you have a talk about what you've got planned for that day. So 3 points. Every employee goes around and has a quick, about a minute, doesn't need to be too much. This tool was invaluable to us. It gave us an instant snapshot of where everyone in the company was at, where they're at, do they need help with something, do they have pain points? And in terms of, just knowing where we're all at and communication, having that ability to check in to a morning meeting, 9:30 every day, we all got on Google Meet. It was just invaluable to us. We still do that. We've been doing daily huddles now for well over a year, and it's a great thing to look at implementing yourself. If there's one takeaway you get from this whole presentation, seriously look into the benefits of doing a daily huddle. It might take 15 minutes out of your day, but it's just phenomenal what you'll get in payback from that. So moving on from daily huddles, we created a virtual water cooler. So when you're at work, you're talking about work, you're also talking bit of crap, talk about footy, talk about music, whatever it is. When you're working remotely, you don't get that, or not as much at least. So one of the things we did was using Slack. We had a channel for random communication, sending lots of GIFs and silly memes and all that sort of stuff. But we also created a regular smoko or a morning cup of tea where we join in anyone that was available at that time and just have a chat, non-work related, and it was a great way that we kept our inter-office relationships running as well during the time. Oops, I've gone one too early. The last one there, team building activities. This is probably my most favorite thing we did over COVID. We started doing a weekly trivia every Friday afternoon. We all joined in onto a Google Meet, and we basically took it in terms of being trivia master, and had a huge amount of fun doing that. So that team engagement and team building stuff, just as important when you're working remotely as to what it is when you're in the team together. In fact, I think out of 41 weeks where we all weren't in the office at some stage, 38 of those we did team trivia. So I think the majority of them were won by Vince. So he was quite often trivia master. So yeah, there's 5 things that hopefully we don't have that situation again. But if you are working remotely or you're dealing with people remotely, just some cool little tips you could use. Next, we're going to have a chat a bit more. We've talked communication and that side of things now. Want to talk a little bit more around the streamlining business operations and tools and tips and way you can look at reducing overheads and also things like better project management. So being a software company, we're obviously pretty obsessed by trying and implementing new tech, not just for our products, but also for things that we use in a day-to-day operations, internal stuff that we use to keep the wheels in motion. So one of my favorite Agile project management tools is something called Kanban. I'm not sure if you've heard of Kanban before. Basically, it's a Japanese word. It means visual card. And that quite aptly sums up what it's all about. If you see in the slide there, we've got like a blackboard or a whiteboard on the left-hand side. In a nutshell, and at a very high level, Kanban is basically like that. You've got a board, you've got cards on that board, and each column represents a step or a pipeline or a status. Within that, you've got cards or mini projects. And, you know, at a very high level, that's a great way to have simple project management. You know, if you've got a board and if you're all in the office, great tool for that. You can see where all your little jobs are at. We probably use another approach, which is similar process, but it's more of a digital version of that. It's through a tool called Trello. If you've heard of that before, it is a really, really cool little tool. I'm going to play a quick little video here that runs you through the process. So I've set up a bit of a mock Trello board as if I was a kitchen designer. And I've created some very crude, very high level statuses here. So from initial consult all the way through to completion of a job. And then you can see underneath that, we've got little cards that indicate the projects that we're working on at that time and where they're up to. And Trello gives you that ability to dynamically move them through. And the beauty of that is that if someone is remote, you know, they're not in the office to see that whiteboard, they can still log on and see where any job is at. You can also do things like add to-do lists, you can add due dates, you can tag them with little labels to indicate where they're up to as well. So awesome little tool. They do have oh, look, there's Gavin up there. We've got two Gavins in the meeting today. So that's one pretty cool little tool that you might use. They do have a free version of that. Definitely recommend having a look at that. Moving on from project managing, another opportunity you could look at for helping reduce overheads is an outsourcing opportunity. So this is our chance to maybe give one of our products a bit of a plug. It's called Go Cabinets. Basically what Go Cabinets is a meeting place for cabinet makers, designers, and more to be able to connect up with a CNC manufacturer that's local to them. And you can use our free online ordering system to quote and order fully customized cabinetry direct from the manufacturer. So I'm just going to play a quick little video that runs you through the process and how this sort of works, if it's going to load up for us. Cool. So that is Go Cabinets for those who haven't seen it before. So a little online tool you can use for quick quoting. If you do any outsourcing, it's a great way to have a tool that's accessible 24 hours a day. You're not having to wait for a manufacturer to get back to you on a quote. So yeah, if you haven't seen it before, check it out. It's free to sign up and have a bit of a peek at it. And as well, I'm going to give you guys a quick little insight to we've just done it. Sorry about that. Went a bit too soon. We've just done a brand new user interface for our platform. You're actually some of the first people to see it. So we're just going to show you a really quick video that runs through the usability of that. I'll try to mute this so I can talk over it a little bit. Yeah, so here's a quick look at our new user interface. It's all based around a more streamlined approach. We've found that over the past 12 months, we've had a real surge in designers or kitchen showrooms and things like that are starting to utilize this as a smart service, being able to quickly, jump on, create a quote, and be able to service your customers a little bit quicker with getting back to them on pricing and that sort of thing. So, yeah, this is our new user interface, which is now live in the system, I believe.
Yes, pretty exciting.
So it's all fully customized. You can see, you can put in whatever sizes you want, obviously based on restrictions of that material and its availability. And yeah, you can build out a quote. Cool. I'm just going to skip through. So I guess to finish off for me before I pass over to Brodie, how do you go about implementing change? And I guess this is more talking on a management kind of level, is what's the best way when you are looking at implementing, say, a new tip or one of these tools that we've talked about, is how can you best do it without interruption? First thing I would say is you've got to be so considerate of change. How would I react to this change? Think about it from that regard. Also say, if you want to implement something in your business, you need to be knowledgeable about what you're going to implement. You need to be really passionate that it's going to have a good, outcome, and that it's going to work for your employees. And you've got to be approachables. And most importantly, you got to make sure you're going to invest your time so that you can help people adapt to this change. There's lots of new tech out there. We've just covered a few little tools that hopefully might help with any remote communications and that you might be able to implement moving forward. And I'm going to sign out from here and pass over now to Brodie, who's going to chat with us a little bit around the sales side of things and playing the long game with your prospects. So Brodie, over to you.
Thanks, Justin. So Brodie, one of the sales consultants here at CBC. So I'm going to sort of talk about a sales sort of point of view. I'll just bring up the slide here. So first thing I've got here is educate and engage. So I've sort of broken it down into 4 little categories just to make it a bit easier to follow. So the first point that I want to talk about here is educate first, sell second. So in a nutshell, that basically means tackle sales by educating your customers. Don't sort of push your products towards them. Just sort of go for that education approach rather than going for the hard sale. So a way you can achieve this is ask open-ended questions, find out their needs and requirements. Don't tell them what they should be buying, help them identify why they should be buying from you in the first place. Instead of promoting the benefits of your services, present your audience with a variety of solutions that, will suit them and let them decide from there what's best for them. Moving on from there, the next one I've got there is consult. So turn your sales pitch into a discussion. Find the pain points that your customers are approaching you with. Avoid being pushy. People don't like being sold anymore. It's quite obvious. People zone out if you go for that hard sale. They switch off from the conversation. So it's something we find all the time. Think of yourself as a salesperson. Sorry, not as a salesperson, but a sales consultant. So you're here to provide them a solution. Very good. So we've got a mantra here. Don't be afraid to lose an opportunity. If your product isn't right for the customer, sort of don't push it towards them. Make sure you're asking the right questions to make sure your product's right for them. Very good. Moving on from there. A common pain point that we get all the time is people struggle to understand 2D plans and elevations. So they need a way that they can make it easy for their customers to follow. So looking at one of our products here, KBDi Max, it's a visual tool. We can tailor our sales pitch towards the customer to show them, if they implement a solution like this, they can quickly and effectively present their drawings in 3D to the customers. Cool. Next point here is patience. So like Justin said before, always play the long game, avoid being pushy. I like to think about it from my customer's point of view. Not everyone can make a decision on the spot. Sometimes you've got to take a step back from the phone and keep them engaged with your content rather than your follow-ups. So a way that we can achieve this is through engaging email content, newsletters, social media. I'm sure a lot of you guys do that already. But rather than sort of, calling your customers 3 times a week, hit them up with an email, keep them engaged and all that sort of thing. The last point I've got here is engage. So sometimes it's important to also communicate internally, not only externally. Communicate with your sales team, your customer service consultants, your admin staff. they're probably getting asked the same questions over and over again. Identify gaps and topics that you can talk to your customers about to, help them understand what you actually do with your service. So sometimes it's important to keep in contact with your current customers, not just new ones that you're trying to get. A way that we do this is we have a Facebook community for all our customers to sort of jump on board and communicate internally. So that's a good way we can identify, some places we need to work on in terms of tutorials and other content to keep people engaged. So yeah, that's all I've got. Nice and short and sweet. I'm going to pass over now to Riley to go through things from a marketing point of view.
Awesome. Thanks, Brodie. G'day, guys. In terms of marketing and selling, well, we've kind of given you a bit of insight into strategies and messaging, but what I'm going to delve into a bit more here is delivery. So the way in which you're executing your strategies and making sure the right messages are reaching the right audiences. I'm sure you have a decent idea of delivery methods out there. There's obviously the traditional, magazines, newspaper, all those sort of articles and ads that you can put there. But with the digital age, the digital side of things has definitely become way more prominent. Vince has already touched on a little bit about Facebook and Google advertising, which are definitely default solutions nowadays that a lot of people turn to. So it's true that executing ads correctly in those platforms can produce great results and attract mass attention, but the costs associated that can rise pretty high if you don't have the time to actually manage them properly and execute them, have the attention to it. So for the presentation, I'm going to kind of focus on something that's a bit more affordable, direct, and reasonably simple to use, and that's email. So you might say that's pretty basic. I send emails all the time and almost always send a personal email to a client who engages you, etc. That's not really what I'm talking about here. I'm more talking about email marketing platforms. So the likes of MailChimp, SendGrid, Sendinblue, these sort of online platforms, which are pretty easy to use, are really beneficial to you guys when it comes to your marketing. So we currently use MailChimp here at CBC, and we're finding it pretty beneficial. So you might find me referring to that a bit more, but I'll jump to our first benefit here, and that's the simplicity. So we'll just switch over to the next slide real quick here. We know the core reason that many businesses, some of your businesses, you might not be able to have a heavier focus on your marketing. It's you don't have time. You're busy actually running the business and dealing with your clients, and it's where the beauty of EDMs comes in. 4 key syllables I like to say: automation. Not only is making an email quick and simple, there's plenty of startup templates, as you can see here, and a pretty simple drag and drop system, similar to how KBDi Max, you can drop a cabinet into your design. In MailChimp and other programs, you can easily drop an image or some text into your email to make it super simple to create engaging content. And then you can also send it on an automation. So in that case, picture a client has submitted an inquiry to you, or they've sent you an email asking for a quote or something like that. You can automatically or manually have them added to an appropriate list that sets them off on a journey. It could last weeks, months, even years, depending on the number of emails you put in there and the timing that you set up. So if you want, really, it could all be going on in the background and you don't need to lift a finger, which is pretty beneficial there. Now, that kind of goes against Vince's don't ever do set and forget, but we understand that you don't always have the time to do that. Yeah. Ideally, you'd be able to implement this awesome benefit of measurability and adaptability to engage and create your content even better. So I endorse the set and forget, but the true agility comes through measurability and analysis. So from the moment you send or start your campaign, you can easily track your number of opens, clicks, and very importantly, what are recipients actually clicking? Similar to the Hotjar that Vince was talking about on your website, you can do the same thing in MailChimp. So you can actually track, if you see in this example, the exact links that are being clicked and how many people are clicking those links in your email. So let's take an example that you sent an email out and you notice that your main call to action at the top of your page isn't really getting much engagement, but one lower down is getting, the majority of your clicks. So from that, you quickly adapt. You either go, okay, I need to move this one that's at the bottom up the top so I can capitalize on the most people that are viewing it. Or if that top link is the one that you actually want people to click on, you need to make that more engaging, and you need to change that, and you need to draw people's attention better, because obviously you see it's not working. And these factors are extremely beneficial in making sure you're capitalizing the most on your recipients and clientele. If you're not familiar with the platforms, then you're probably saying, geez, this sounds a bit too good to be true. What's actually the cost involved in this sort of stuff? Well, that's where the third benefit is. It's affordable. So MailChimp and others are a freemium solution. So not the kind, I know you hear freemium and you think, oh, okay, so they give you like the bare basics and then you have to pay if you want to do anything that's actually worthwhile. It's not the case with MailChimp and these ones. You can actually get about 2,000 contacts and send up to 10,000 emails a month in MailChimp. So that's actually really beneficial. You might be sitting here going, that's all well and good. I don't actually have 2,000 contacts to send emails to, or you're busy trying to focus on bringing in new customers. You don't really want to pay attention to people who've disregarded you or aren't really, engaging with you at the moment. This kind of draws me to the core point of the benefits of EDMs, consistency. So I've already been discussing automation a bit. I'm just going to dig a little bit deeper here on the subject here. The fact of the matter is, yes, your focus might be towards getting new customers, and that's where your personal focus will be. But with automation, what you can do is you can make sure that you're not leaving behind that massive pool of existing customers, those previous leads. So just because they may have dismissed you, or they might be finished with, their conversation with you, doesn't mean that you should be finished with them. So as we discussed with automation, you can keep yourself in the picture for this whole group of people without needing to exhaust yourself. Get an email in front of these people every couple of weeks or even months keeps your name in their mind, keeps you top of mind there. You would know already that not every client abandons a project or a renovation just because they don't like you or they thought your ideas were stupid. Some of them don't have the finance to actually pay for it right now, or they've just got a lot going on and they can't do it just yet. So by keeping yourself top of mind through regular emails, you can make sure that when they are ready in a couple of months or even a couple of years down the track, that you're right there, that you're the first person that they're thinking of because they got an email from you a week ago or 2 weeks ago. In our business, we've seen potential clients come back months or even years later, as I've said, to purchase. And usually it's triggered by a recent email that they engaged with. And with all this data, we can actually see which emails they checked on. And we go, wow, that email has resulted in us getting like 5 clients recently. Maybe we should move it up the chain a little bit. So you can see in that example there on the screen that it's pretty simple. You can basically drag and move those emails into a different order, however you wanted to approach it. And it's basically a lifesaver, in my opinion. It's one of my main focuses here at CVC is doing up email content. And I say the more the merrier. We could have 30, 40 emails in a chain. You may think, geez, people aren't really going to keep listening and watching those, are they? But they do. People are always checking. They may not open every email, but at some point they're going to get in there, and at some point they're going to engage. And if they're not interested, they can always unsubscribe. There's no harm in that. So really don't dismiss EDMs as a high quality tool for marketing. With comparatively minimal costs and difficulty, you can welcome new leads, keep in touch with previous and existing leads, and upsell or seek feedback and testimonials from completed clients. So maybe you'll get a testimonial that you can chuck on your next EDM. But really, keep EDMs in mind. MailChimp is our choice, but go out there, research, find what's best for you, because it's really an amazing opportunity that you guys don't really want to be missing out on.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Riley. So that's pretty much the end of our prezo now. So we're happy to throw over to you guys if you've got any queries. Obviously, we've chatted a lot about different tips and tools and little, like I said, we're a tech company and we love using tech to make life easier. So if you've got any questions about any of the tools that we've talked about and how you might be able to implement them, we're more than happy to answer those, whether it be, now in a Q&A or whether it's after. Perhaps we might even put together a bit of a doc that outlines some of the things we've talked about, so you guys can check them out for yourself if you're interested. But we might throw it over to you, Selena.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, I'll just put the call out just to remind people to pop the questions in the chat box if they have any. I've got a few to hit each of you with actually to get started. So Vincent, the Google Analytics that you mentioned right at the beginning there, if there was one key metric that people should be looking at, what would you say that is?
I would say would be, it's really hard to say one key metric because there's so many factors that are involved, but depending on what you're wanting to achieve, like I'd probably say traffic is important. So the amount of traffic that's coming to your website, that's probably a key metric. That sort of, a lot of people would say that's a bit of a vanity attribution, but it's important to see how your website's trafficking if you're getting, you know, that traffic coming through. Another metric would be the bounce rate. You know, if you've got a high bounce rate, that means people aren't actually looking at your website. They're not even staying on there. So there's no relevance. They're just flying straight off.
Yeah. Okay. Okay,
But
great.
yeah, I mean, there's tons of other metrics, but the key focus here is it really depends on what you're wanting to measure or what goal you're wanting to achieve. That's probably the key to understanding what metric is utilized on Google Analytics.
Well, maybe the number one thing to do is just set it up, because I think it's something that we put off for a long time. And if once you get it set up, then you can start to see what you can be measuring anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Until you start to have a play.
Yeah, there's so much you can measure. I think it's a definite for every single website to have. It's as simple as dragging a bit of code onto your website, and literally, you know, within 24 hours, you're able to start measuring, you know, traffic flow to your site. So it's it's definitely sort of a tool that you can't live without.
Yeah, you might have an inquiry form on your website that you use for potential clients who let you know what they're looking to design or what they want. If you use analytics, you can actually, you know, track exactly how many clicks. You might go, well, I can use that for the emails, but this way it's easier to track the number of inquiries you're getting versus the traffic. And you can go, well, we're bringing all these people to our website, but we're not really capitalizing. We're not really getting that many inquiries or phone calls from this. So you can really tweak that a bit better. So traffic, inquiries, really, there's a lot you can do, but our main goal is just track the data on there, get analytics set up. It's free.
Like another point, for example, I know that probably maybe probably going to waffle here a little bit, but is that you can set up conversion monetary value. So for example, if you've got a product you're wanting to sell, or for example, like there's a service, you can actually monetize that conversion, which is a really cool feature to have on Google Analytics. So you know exactly what that click is costing you versus that conversion rate. So from an ROI point of view, that's sort of invaluable.
Yep, good point. That's great, thank you. Justin, you were talking about Slack and Kanban. Now, we surveyed the members not that long ago about the tools that they use for project management and communications, and Kanban didn't come up, so thank you for that heads up. We'll go and check that one out.
Yeah, definitely.
With respect to Slack, I think we have some members who obviously have bigger teams and they're using that internally, and then other members who are trialing using that with the client, so setting up projects, basically a project, and Trello also. I wonder if you've got any tips for strategies in kind of determining which communications go into that and which communications go into a more formal email or something that they may need to refer back to down the track. Have you got any tips there?
Definitely. So in terms of like your team size, I'll just touch on that just quickly. We started using a program called HipChat, which is like a very early version of Slack. I think Slack bought them out. We used that when there was only 4 of us in our team. So we've got 20 or 21 in our team now. So it doesn't really matter so much what size your team is. I would recommend you look at anyone using that sort of a tool. And again, Slack has a freemium option which offers a heap of stuff in there too. In terms of what goes in Slack and what goes in an email, I look at things, what do we need to make a quick decision on? If you're looking at a lower priority or something you just want to make a really quick decision on, Slack's perfect for that kind of thing. If you're wanting to cement something, you know, an approach or a quote or something like that, email, I think, hands down, is the approach there. It's more formal. Think of the tone and the way you're talking to the people and or the person on the other end. And if you're wanting to really formalize the conversation, hands down email. If it's general chit chat, collaboration, that sort of stuff, definitely hands down Slack is the way to go for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Excellent. And the Go cabinets, the pricing feature, I think that probably caught the attention of a few designers here. So that's definitely a tool people can just log in there and work out at least a guesstimate for a kitchen budget. Yeah.
Definitely. So what we do when a user signs up, we'll connect them with a CNC manufacturer who's close by to them. So we have a network of about 60 manufacturers that we work with across Australia. So we, first and foremost, will try to make that connection based on location, because if you ever do go ahead with the job, then you want to be able to liaise with someone that's nearby to you. So once you've got that link up, the pricing is in real time. You can toggle on between things like whether your job's assembled, whether it's flat pack, whether it's got Lego box drawers, or whether it's got metabox drawers, and you can make all these changes really dynamically, and the pricing will flow through automatically. I think Gavin, you might have raised a hand there. Is that?
Yeah, I did. Thanks, guys. I'm really enjoying it.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Go cabinets. It looks like you're obviously putting a little bit more work into that and ramping that up, and it's something which I have, to be honest, been exploring over the last couple of weeks myself. So from a design perspective, when I do project manager own jobs and I'm looking for some faster faster results, I suppose, and turn around from some cabinets, like some laundries and a vanity. So how does it really work from you guys engaging someone local to me and getting it delivered? Is that really the idea, that it gets delivered just on site and then I can get my guys on site to install it?
Yeah, 100%. So there's a bunch of different options. So what part of what we do is we make that introduction or the connection between you and the manufacturer you're going to be working with. We like to make a really great online experience for you guys, but aside from that, we're not in your location. We're not there directly with you. So we make that connection. You'll have direct contact line with the people in the factory that's going to be producing your job. So you're able to talk to them, whether you want to have the job picked up from their factory or whether it's delivered to site. All those options can be configured through the platform, and it'll all be priced in accordingly through there. So it's really up to the individual and how they want to go about doing their quote and order.
All right. So it's really just a glue pot to sort of pull, the manufacturers in.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep.
The other thing is the project, back to sort of, I suppose, a discussion or a question that Selena just had in the project management side of things. And it's something that does come up a lot within the industry is project management tools. When it comes to a project management tool from, I suppose, is there, where I'm leading with my question, is there one program or one source that you think would be a one-stop shop from a design perspective, liaising with the staff from the design, but then also the tradies on site and accountability for the actual actions and the trade works that they're doing, that then the clients perhaps could have a log into as well?
If there is, I think someone's going to make a lot of money out of it, because there'd be, look, and that's one of the challenges with technology is you'll find these little subsets and little applications that do one thing and they do it really, really well. But it's then about finding integrations between those and other tools. So like Slack, as an example, you can have a channel on there. Say you're doing a project for Mrs. Jones, right? You can set up a channel for Mrs. Jones and her residence, and you can invite her to that. Now, she will only see the communications in there. So you can actually post messages or updates in that channel. But Slack also has a really powerful integration with other tools. I believe there's a Trello integration as well. So yeah, I'm really big on using tools that allow expanding beyond just what they're about, but also allowing those integrations and plugins with other tools. That's what you got to look for. Trello is through the company called Atlassian. So they do a really lot of integrations. I think they own Slack as well. So yeah, so. No, unfortunately there isn't a one-stop shop, but yeah, it's about being malleable and being able to use different tools and connect them in together to make it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you. Thanks, Gav. Brodie, had a question for you. I loved what you said about not being afraid to lose an opportunity. And I think from a lot of the members' point of view, that's also not being afraid to lose a client. So this is probably more a statement than a question, but I think it's something that we've all had it at some stage where you have a client and you just know that this is not going to go well. So I guess keeping that in mind, it's not a bad idea to cut your losses before you go any further. Also, the note you made about people aren't ready to, being mindful that people aren't always ready to make a decision on the spot. This probably doesn't apply to you guys when you're selling software, but I'm interested with the members' point of view on this one, the old school kind of way of making sure you've got both the husband and wife there to make that decision. I mean, for me personally, as soon as someone says that, I'm out. I'm not interested in taking that conversation further. But I do understand that the principle of it is kind of making sure that I guess there's no opportunity to say, oh, I'll have to check with someone else before we make that decision. Just, do you have any general thoughts about that one?
Sorry, just cut out at the end. It's a bit the same with us as well. We get a lot where people want to see a demonstration and then they say, oh, I want to bring someone else into it. So it's, I guess, in terms of that, it's about making sure you organise a time when everyone's available and sort of go from there. That sort of, hopefully that answers your question a little bit, or...
But that's coming from the client. It's not you insisting that someone else be there with them.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think sales is really interesting and has kind of really evolved over the last 10, 15 years. Traditionally, even 15, 20 years ago, a salesperson was the primary point of contact with a business. And, websites and that weren't as big a thing. So the salesperson was the primary point of information. So they were very reliant, the customer's very reliant on, what they put forward to them. They're that middle point. Now you've got websites, you've got online reviews, you've got all this stuff. So to put it frankly, customers aren't going to take old school sales bullshit. You got to really adapt your approach and always be asking questions, finding those pain points. And again, that's why we say don't be afraid to lose a sale, because if it's not going to work, you're going to be in for a world of hurt, and it's not worth the sale.
It's actually worse for your brand in the end. At the end of the day, you're going to be doing a disservice to your brand as well, because people talk, and you're going to lose that brand sort of recognition as well in the process.
Yeah, so true. Thank you. Riley, can't let you get out without a question. Sorry. I think one thing I sometimes notice with members that I think they underestimate the value of keeping in contact with the email, because they think, well, a kitchen's a one-off project, they're not going to do it again for 15 years. So, but I think there is a great opportunity there just to stay in the mind of those clients whether they buy a new house, whether they have friends that are renovating, that kind of thing. I think my advice there from what we're doing with KBDi is to make sure that when the frequency maybe doesn't matter so much as long as it's quality content. So I know we all get onto mailing lists where you kind of get spammed by really irrelevant information. So maybe when you're collecting that data or building your list in whatever platform you choose, if you allow for some kind of segmentation. So if it's someone that's got no interest in commercial design, don't give them anything to do with commercial design, just ensuring that you can segment your list. And we use, as an aside, we use Vision 6, which is an Australian owned email company. So if members are out there, look at MailChimp, look at Vision 6. And there are a whole lot of different companies doing the same thing, but you're right, they're cheap. They're not always expensive, particularly for the volume of contact lists that a lot of members would be using. So I didn't give you a question with that, Riley. I'm trying to go back to my notes.
That's fine.
Just a rant. I suppose the question was, with the timing, there's no really rule, is there? It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be every fortnight. It's just making sure that there's some consistency in what you're doing and making sure it's good content.
No, yeah, exactly. And your point on segmentation is exactly correct. We definitely segment our audiences based on, we don't want to be sending someone information that's not relevant to them. Yeah. So if someone is a cabinet maker and they've jumped on and inquired with us, we don't want to start sending them information that has nothing to do with them. So say they're a handyman, we don't want to start sending them information about, CNC software and that sort of thing, because we know they don't use it. In the context of a designer, you might have someone who's specifically after a kitchen. You don't want to start bombarding them with designs of a bathroom, for instance. That may still be relevant, but at their core, the kitchen is what's introduced them. So segmentation is really important. So you can make sure the most relevant information is what they're getting initially. Maybe you can reuse some of that bathroom content down the track once they've, finalized with a job or something like that. But we definitely value creating quality content. That's something that we definitely strive for. So we try to make regular email content, but we won't rush it. If we go, oh, I was set to do an email, create an email and get it sent out this week, but it's not quite perfect, then we don't send it, because we don't want to be sending trash and getting unsubscribed straight away.
Yeah.
So we want to create the best quality content and prioritize that over just, oh, we want to send them something. So definitely, I agree with those points that segmentation is really helpful for making sure the right content's going to the right people, and definitely focusing on quality content. So yeah, it does. I said set and forget, and that it's not super time consuming. It can be time consuming. It definitely can be if you put the effort in. I would recommend putting the effort in, but at the same time, if you don't have the time, you can still do it.
Yeah, and something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
I think that's the overwhelming theme.
You're right, Justin, there. Like, you're right, Selena, too. A lot of people think that they need to send something out every week. That's not necessarily the point. They can send out whenever they feel right, as long as it's consistently. And the other thing is too, a lot of people sometimes want to send out a large amount of content in one go. So it's like one big article. What I sometimes recommend is that you cut that article up, and then all of a sudden you've got 5 bits of content that you can send out over, say, a 5-month period, for example. As opposed to sending out that one bit of content that might be too hard for that customer to, absorb in one go. So all of a sudden you're creating smaller chapters rather than one book.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
and especially in like the age we're in now, where we are very short attention spans, and we're after quick satisfaction and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, we're sort of big on not having huge amounts of content in anything we deploy. It's always short and snappy, get to the point, engage that interest, and then if that person is really interested, they can go and find that extra bit of info or whatever that they're after.
Yeah.
Engage.
Great. Well, we are over the hour, so
we're over time, aren't we?
Send you our bill.
Can I say something, Selena?
Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
look, I listened to this and I took notes and everything, and one of the things that came very clear was it's where you said it's all about the customer, the client, and education, and then you said about education again, and don't do the hard sell, and awareness, and don't give up, deliver, satisfaction. And one thing that came out of all of that in your presentation is you delivered what you preached. I was very impressed, and thank you so much. It was very good. And I certainly hope that some of our people who couldn't come today, I know quite a few people do download, and I'm sure I will be recommending people listen to that presentation. It was very educational and very good indeed. I know we're going out of time, so just briefly, next week we start when we do the member series, which I run more. We're starting on a series of meet the judges, and next week we have our very own Cheryl Millis, and so I'm really looking forward to that. So we've selected our judges, and that's the first reveal. I'm not sure if the rest have been officially revealed yet. Have they, Selena?
No, they haven't yet. We might follow Vincent's advice and drip feed that.
Excellent.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much again.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Cheers later.
Appreciate your time.
Right.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you all next week. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.